Okay, okay. First, the questions. Who are you? Let's ask it like this.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, my name is Nicki. I'm sure you've seen me around the Discord server if you're here. I am probably the most public face of Rapidfire, mostly because I was the one who set up the Discord server and the Reddit subreddit. Um, and it's one of those things that we felt in the beginning of our development history of Backpack Brawl that the game would support a community, and it seems like it does, which I'm very thankful for. And hello everyone, and thank you for being here. Um, my own background is I used to be a programmer, developer, and transitioned into game design. I hope my sound is all right, by the way. Transitioned into game design and am now what you might call acting game director on Backpack Brawl. We don't really have the role so defined internally in Rapidfire because we're still so small. But me and three others founded Rapidfire about a year and a half ago. After some of us got let go from Kilu when that collapsed on itself. That's another story for another time. But post that, we sort of rose from the ashes with Rapid Fire and wanted to do our own games because we'd been talking for years about they were doing everything wrong and we could do it better. So now it's like, oops, we better put our money where our mouths are, which has been working out so far, and we're still alive. Um, so yeah, my role at Rapid Fire is to do the overall game design, mostly systems design, but I have a hand in everything as much as possible. I can't help it.
So, who was in the original development team when you first started this game?
Um, for Backpack Brawl, so there's a little bit of a story to how we got to it, but it was the four of us that founded Rapid Fire. That's myself, and that's Daniel, Theodore, and Rivis, who together founded Rapid Fire when we started, and we were looking around for what kind of game we could do. And we initially, so we saw essentially Backpack Battles on Steam and thought that's a fun game, and it was quite a lot of fun. There are some things we didn't like about it, and then where we were, both in our lives and where we were physically at the time, we wanted to play it on iPad or phone, and there was no alternatives. And so we saw an opportunity to say, well, what if we did a variation of that? And like did our own thing. And then we tried to pitch some ideas at each other about doing it. How far should we deviate from that sort of formula? Um, so we had some things where we pitched to another company, which was very much different than what we have right now, which they sadly rejected. But in our good fortune, we then essentially ended up falling back on saying, well, what if we just did a straight fantasy, the traditional game instead of doing something wacky or crazy, which is usually the indie way. Is like doing this but insane. So we did like, okay, what if we just play it straight? So we did with Ronan and Chana that are like warrior, mage, rogue, and then Fedora was like ended up being a ranger more. Um, and then instead of doing all of them traditional, we wanted to do like a some of them simple, some of them out there, which I think something like Buzz or Tink is a good example of in our hero design. Um, and I ramble a bit, so I'm sorry. Uh, so yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I sure talked a
No, definitely. You answered way more
lot.
questions that would follow that I can now cut off later. But you
Very good.
answered them very good. One thing I want to add, because it works fine here, the game is definitely growing. I had last week in the tram a situation where I was looking at the child's phone over the top just by driving through, and I saw Backpack Brawl, and I was very hyped, and I immediately was like,
Oh,
"Oh, he's playing it
amazing!
so cool!" But yeah, just want to say it
Like
starts
I
that I see the game in public, and that's very very cool.
fantastic. I remember back in the day. So to go back to our history, we was half of the team that did Subway Surfers, and seeing other people playing it in public was like a bit of a thrill because it's like, wait, it's real, it's actually out there. It's so
Oh no, he's
mind
about to
blowing
see
in
the
the
bug.
beginning.
Oh no.
Yeah, don't click that. You're playing it wrong. That's also a classic. So yeah, I'm really happy with how successful it has been and how successful the Discord server has been as well. We are what 23,000, almost 24,000. So that's amazing. Um,
And that's just on Discord.
Unexpected.
The
Uh,
download numbers
that's
are
just the Discord.
really high, just to say
Yeah.
that.
Uh, we have crossed 1.5 million, and I think even 1.6 or 7 if I collate it all together. So I expect us to hit 2 million well before spring properly starts. So that's fantastic.
We're gonna see the announcement then when Liquid is accidentally doing the at everyone call again and half of the server population is gone.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think that was the introduction that we needed. We can probably just
Fantastic.
hop right in and start with the event.
All right. Let's see. So I'm going to share my screen if I reasonably can do that, and my computer doesn't get weird with it.
At first, let
All
me
right.
say thank you to all the submits that we got. I already looked them through. Nicki just skipped one time in the channel or something, but didn't look it through. So his reaction is the authentic first time reaction, you could say. And
Yeah. So I only peeked once.
I must say, the kind of things that we got sent to here are very different, and it's a wide range. And I was very, very pleased by how creative the people were to make these. It's not that we have that mass of submits that we got, but it's the kind. So every submit that I saw is really something different, and that's pretty cool. Just to put that beforehand.
Mm. So I guess I'll just scroll down through and see them. I love existent humans. Well, very relevant just recently with all that fire, which is great. Um, and um, and oh, I'm too old for these things.
I had to ask for this one too, because I didn't get it in the first thing. But it's funny.
Okay. I one thing about now that I see is we are actively getting voices for all the male characters as well. It's on its way. We just had an unfortunate over Christmas illness that delayed it, but that's coming. Not in 030 though, but it's coming. Uh, I love bees. So
This is actually one
a
where
little.
I thought it's very cool just to have a submit which is a mouse cursor. I thought about
Mm-hmm.
putting it in the event, but I tested it already. It actually is pretty cool. It's fun, and there will later be a
I
second one of these actually.
Fantastic. A little story about bees, just to follow on that. Buzz was my attempt at essentially making a garden because I wanted to make something that was way out there, and we landed on this beekeeper character because I'm a huge fan of bees, um, and I was so upset with Daniel that he didn't make a bumblebee that we ended up adding your new uniques to ranks so that I could get bombus. So that was a forced character, or for a forced item. So I love this. This is fantastic. Um,
So the new uniques were just cause you wanted a bumblebee, is that right?
I mean, so it spun off from that. It was like, okay, well, if we have to make a new unique, what should we do with that? What can we do? And it's like, well, you can put it on ranked. Well, we have 6, 7 heroes at that time. Then we have to make 14 of them. Oh, and then he made 14 of them. So
But
it
it was
all
a
worked
great
out.
idea. I love the new uniques, and I love the way that it pushes the game in different directions. Cause you made these uniques later, which different with different thoughts, and which makes then
Hmm.
obviously the playstyle of the uniques very different to other uniques that
Hmm.
you had before. And I love the way
Hmm.
then when you can, yeah, go in the early game, see what you hit, and then you can decide where your path with your hero will go when you get the
Hmm.
unique. And it's pretty cool. I love it that we have now
Mm.
another unique more.
It is interesting, and I think so. Without spoiling anything, in 031, there's gonna be more interesting stuff coming in that direction. So I'll just tease that out. This is exactly the design we wanted for Harkon. It's like, yeah, I died, but I survived, and then he kills you. Uh, so, so it captures it very well.
When Harkon first came out, and I didn't knew what he was doing because I was kind of late on buying him, I was always confused how he always managed to back up to full life, and I was
Mhm.
how is he having 3 lives? What is this? But it's actually pretty
The only
fun to
thing
play.
we had an interesting bug with him, or I mean, it wasn't really a bug; it was intended, but uh, he was supposed to survive if he got under, like, I think it was 20% life. But if he got enough of a hit to drop him all the way below zero, he would just outright die. So like a heavily scaled Channa or potentially an Infedora could just whack him, essentially.
Yeah, I've done that
Uh,
multiple times.
we have now yeah, we've now changed that, so he should actually survive on one life while he's invulnerable, because it's not so much fun being invulnerable when you're dead.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fine.
and I think this is lovely. Um, Buzz has another interesting story to it. Interesting, maybe not so much, but this design is almost 100% a Daniel thing, because I was originally going like in a way different direction. I thought he should be like Guillermo del Toro, like be a bumblebee in himself, but it didn't really work so well on the look. So this was a good alternate. And a detail about him, even though Painzor is convinced he's an elf, he is actually a gnome. Uh, so he's not very big. Uh, and I love the Merry Christmas, the little bill. Again, one of those things. I have stories to all of these. Funny story about the physics. Physics is a nightmare to work with, but it's so much fun to just be able to fiddle with. Um, So we have had ideas about wanting to remove it, where it's like, oh well, there's not enough room. You can't really work it when you have a lot. What if we just put it into a container of some kind? But it would lose all of this. So we haven't done that, at least not in any capacity yet, because it's still a lot of fun. And I think we fixed most of the early bugs that we had with it, where items could sort of fall off the screen and just be gone. Now, at least, if that can happen, and it shouldn't be able to happen, but if it happens, they respawn in your inventory. But I love when people do something like this is emergent gameplay,
So
essentially.
for me, if
That's
I
fun.
if I can talk about physics for a moment, I think it really gives some depth to the game. It doesn't feel that flat, cheap, cause the physics system really gives you the feeling that there was some love behind the development and that you cared
Hmm.
of what you're doing and not just throwing it randomly in and that's it. I feel like the
But
physics system is
it's like
pretty cool.
ragdolls, right?
And
Mm.
I
It's
often
like
see people,
ragdolls in Sugar.
yeah, I often see people just throwing stuff around and something like that. So it actively is
Hmm.
used just for fun in between. And also this,
Hmm.
I kind of wonder how is this exact video done? Is a person in here? Because when multiple of these stars rain, I wanted to say, the snowflakes, was it somehow locked in the shop with another item and then these were put aside, or it's just something I wondered
All
because
of
so
them.
many of them were raining.
The magic of cinema. Uh,
It's pretty cool.
Cactan has a big VFX team doing this for him. That's very nice. And then I have Kivan's song. So I don't have sound from my computer, so I can't actually play the song. But I can certainly open it possibly if I don't open it on a different screen.
We can review it afterwards too then. If you can't hear it now, if you haven't heard it before.
Do you have any sounds on now?
I don't hear anything from it.
Okay. Well, I recommend you see it. I liked it a lot. Um, Otherwise, I'll see if we can later in the in. Oh my god, it's just acting weird. Later in the talk, we can. There we go. We can have a look at it with sound on.
Perfectly.
It's very nice as well. Uh, and then there are some actual jewelry, if you will. I mean, it's spot on, isn't it?
It definitely is. It's very, very good. And I know how much time these take, so this is cool.
Mm. Yeah, it's very nice, very nice. So we should have merch. The only merch I have is a cap that says Rapidfire Games, but we don't have any backpack merch. We should have backpacks as merch, but here we are.
You have the how is it called? The cup, the bad rating
The
cup.
cup. That's true. Mm, that's true. I should find one of those and show it off. Um, in the beginning, we got many 1-star reviews that was like, well, expletives and such, and we got them all and printed them on a cup. So we have like our tier of haters cup with that. And here's another one from Buzz's menagerie with all the butterflies.
How can I
It's
get it
very nice.
bigger in the stream? No, I think not.
I think it isn't much bigger, so
No,
it's
no, I
like,
just mean to zoom in for the capture, uh, the video capture.
uh, well, you can edit it and add it on top or
More work, yay!
something. This is true. This is even more true with development. Uh, I have been working late for the last year, uh, so yes, just a little bit more.
It's
Fix
always
it. Fix
funny when I do exactly this and just have a last game and it gets later and later and I'm like at 3 p.m. a.m. and watch on my phone and see, huh, Nicki is still developing. What is going on here?
it. All right, let's see what Borealis has. Ooh, let me see if I can click it so it gets bigger.
I can put the song at the end of the video, yeah. I can
Mm,
just open it
sure.
then and see if I can capture it with the sound here. I don't know if
I
I have the
recognize.
time to cut the video so I put it right in there, but I will see
Sure.
what I can do.
I recognize a lot of things from this, and I really like that.
Yeah, that is
I see.
that is cool. I've written with the one who has done this, and he
Hmm.
was hiding several items in here, a lot of
I love
items, and it's so cool the detail in there. And I just have to say it, I love that Harkon is riding that fish.
it. Very good. The biggest fish so far. Um, Very cool. Very nice. I love the detailing in the just the recognizability of all the things. That's great. Excalibur, Worlds, and uh,
But also the
is that his?
armors and
Oh yeah.
everything is just
Mm-hmm.
from the items. It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Well done. Well done. I will give you a solid thumbs up. Oh, a bunch of work in progress. Oh no, my head. I have to turn. All right, I won't go through. I won't
yeah,
go
that's
through all
okay.
the work in progress, but I appreciate that there's a lot of work that went into this. That's cool.
Started with a concept review, then the plain sketch, then the coloring, and just put all in there.
It's also lovely, lovely seeing it out in the wild. We go everywhere. So it's a
If
good
this,
thing we work offline as well. I think.
yeah, that's what I want to say. If this wouldn't be an offline game, if you would be in Germany on some location looking like this, you are 100%ly
Hmm.
not having internet.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I love our little sprites. And this is a wonderful little cursor as well.
It's
Um,
it's a rapid fire Easter egg, I guess.
well, we have a fire sprite that looks exactly like that, but not moving. We've talked a little bit about wanting to add a bit more life to the items in the game. Something like the flames of that moving could be a good start, or contents of potions and stuff. But it's just something that is technically difficult and has like dare I say little return on investment because it's like a this just feels nice. So we just have to sort of find the time to do it. A lot of those this feels nice kind of things are something that we did on the side where it's like, yeah, I should be working on this, add something, but this thing. That's why we had bells in the Christmas update or the one over the holidays. Uh, we had a big feature coming out that's coming out now in 030 that we completely sidelined to make bells. But the bells were a short-term thing. But it was like, this is important. We need to be able to ding ding ding, and it's been received very well. So
The
uh,
bells were pretty cool.
because the other thing would have been rushed as well.
Actually, my fiance just downloaded the game because of the bells.
Well, we should do more like that. I would
I
love
see
to
some
do
problems
more
in your
stuff like
camera. Is it just me, or does everybody else see it too in Nicki's camera? Just
that. Oh, might be because I'm streaming at the same time and streaming at pretty high
okay,
rate.
probably.
Am I through the whole thing? I think I am. All right.
Uh, I think yes, that should be it. But I loved, that's what
Fantastic.
I said. I love how different it is. The picture of the mountain, the cursors, which is
Mhm.
really cool, very cool idea. Then we have the in-game things.
Yeah.
We have the memes. We have artworks. We have the physical artwork, which Beweed has done also. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's just so different. And
Yeah, it's
that's
very,
why
very
I
well
said
done.
also I don't want to value it on stream and give the ranking out. I want to think about it clearly, because
Mm.
these are so different in artwork and it's really hard to compare them. So we have to kind of get to know
Hmm.
what we're gonna do with the ranking here and how we're gonna set it out. Yeah.
I think it was all very well done, and I appreciate a lot the effort that's gone into it. I also appreciate the effort that goes into setting up all these events, because obviously Tom and the whole moderator team on Discord is volunteers. They're doing this for the fun of it, which is fantastic. Fantastic cost value evaluation for us, and it's and it's just wonderful that people want to take part in this.
And I love to see
That's
that
great.
many people are here also listening and watching this, so I know it's not for nothing, and you guys enjoy that I do these types and that I take my time in and yeah, start preparing things. Even if I'm not perfect and you have seen my conflicts in times or in spellings or anything, but I just love to see that it's taken into account and that people like it. So thank you from my side also.
So we're all properly glazed. Do you have more questions?
Yeah, okay, we are done with the first part, so we can now skip right into the questions. Let me see what you already have told and what I can ask. For first, the introduction questions were asked, design and gameplay. Yeah, you already talked a bit about how you design heroes, that you wanted to keep some plain and some more complex. Which here is another question. How will you develop in the future? Will you go more to the complex version or will you, yeah, throw in a less complex version in between just for new players that they can choose of?
um, so just to back it up a little bit about hero design in general, um, we started out with this very, I don't want to say rigid, but a very sort of simplified fantasy characters. That's it. And we still hold on to that our world is not like too not fantasy. But we have opened up for things that are like a little tech, like Tink, uh, and a little stranger in different ways. Um,
Beekeeper.
Beekeeper was the first sort of, or Buzz was the first that really sort of turned to something that people didn't expect, and I really like the idea of that. But there is a balance to be struck between things that are out there and things that are familiar, um, because I think we see in our numbers as well is that for the whole life of the game, Ronan has been the one hero that's been played by far the most. Maybe except for this patch for other reasons, which So Shanna is obviously the close second, because those are the two free heroes, obviously. But even with the rotation of the free, those are still the most played. So those are like traditional, and then we do these more strange and complex. And Buzz has one kind of complexity where there's a lot of economics play if you want to do that, and like this whole pet with many small things. Tink has another. Like Tink is probably on the upper end of the complexity scale that we want to do. Uh, I say completely breaking it once in a while, but um, that's probably the highest level of complexity we want to do, I think. Um, we have been circling around doing a second type of star for a while, but we just sort of haven't really needed it. So we want to have a good reason for doing it. The heroes that we're doing now are trying to break the mold, or that not we're doing right now, but that we have been doing up until now, with Celeste being the last one. um, we try to break the mold in different directions. So, like Celeste and Enoch were the first that got these on item indicators as the items gather stuff up. Um, and that's been pretty good. We had an experiment with trying to spread Celeste more into Celeste mechanics with overload and static into the main pool, but it was a little much, so we pulled it back again. But the idea of each hero brings something new to the table that can sort of spread a little bit to everything else, we like that. Uh, Purely for complexity, one of the one of the decisions we made early on was that we wanted to have hero selection be random. It's somewhat controversial at this point, but at that time the thought was to do it like Hearthstone Battlegrounds, where it's like, okay, you get four heroes to choose from, select the one you want, and go. Uh, but sort of the nature of our game is that, well, if I didn't get the right hero, I'll just concede and go again, which is sort of problematic for us. And well, it's not really that problematic, but it is just that's just undermining that whole system. Uh, so I know there's been some questions regarding hero selection, and there's been a bunch of suggestions for ways to, can members roll more or whatever. Uh, we are removing that randomization, so it's going to be something where you can select from all the heroes you own.
That's definitely
Um,
good news with new heroes every time coming. If you want to level one
I mean,
hero that's new, then you can't really get it
you
if
sort
you
of
get any more heroes.
exactly.
Yeah.
You start to feel the pain. We started to feel the pain properly when we got to Celeste, I think, where you have to roll 3 or 4 times before you get that, and it's like this feels stupid. So like when you had six heroes, fine, whatever. But it starts to feel painful now. So we are going to remove that. Exactly what the format and how we're going to do it, I'm not 100% sure, but we're leaning towards doing something like League of Legends, where it's available, or like a MOBA, where you have a certain amount of them that are freely available, like we do right now, where we just have one for members and one for everyone that is free to play. Maybe expanding that to having more, or having it alternate in some capacity a little bit more, so we can get people playing different heroes and trying them out, figuring out what they like. Um, so for complexity, so what I'm coming way back to is like, when you do that, you have to give people something to know what they're selecting, and complexity tends to be a good indicator of, do I want to play this hero or not. Um, and in our game, if we go 5 to 1 or 1 to 5 in complexity, I think Tink is probably the one that's at 5, and so we don't want to break that unless we, go crazy at some point and have a good idea.
Uh,
Uh, the
ju-
next hero that's coming out is going to be simpler, a little bit simpler, but more in the Celeste complexity level, I think.
One time, just for Kivian, because I saw the question, I want to say I will go through the questions that I gathered from people's giving me questions before, and after that we go for the community questions. So I could ask you to put the question in the end again, and then we definitely will talk about this. Okay, just I have seen it. Just don't worry.
Yeah, we'll get to it. And I have seen the video from yours because it was shared somewhere else, and I think I even encouraged you to submit it for this. So I have seen it, and I think it's great. Um,
So this duck here is
okay.
actually really intentional, just cause the question was here.
Mine is not intentional. It's always been there. It's been there longer than I have.
All right, just right in the next question. Where we at? Da-da-da.
Um,
Story mode, game modes, yeah. Starting with story mode, there were a time where you were kind of thinking about choose your fate, choose your path way of game to not go in the classical mobile development state where you have been now.
mhm.
Is it still on the table, or will you just stick to the mobile game cause it works now? I mean, I could totally understand it, but just for the question, cause it was there.
The Yes. I so there will be a story mode. I don't want to commit entirely to a time, but what I expect us to try to do is to separate the PvP and the more, dare I say, PvE personal progression. So right now they're sort of intermingled, and it's a little bit uh, it's a little bit dodgy the way it is right now with ranks and areas or locations or what you want to call them. So, and I also I have had a sort of gripe with having ranked and unranked play or casual play as we had it, practice play we had to call it something. We're trying to figure out what that should be. Originally, we only had ranked play. That was the only type of play to do, just play. Uh, I still have a little bit of a gripe with that because I don't think it adds super much for me, at least for me as a player and for me as a developer. Um, but I do want to encourage the idea of, if you don't want to play against other players, well, maybe there's a type of gameplay for you in this game as well. And we have had lots of requests for, what's the story behind these characters? Who is Harkon? What is all of this? And that could be a good area to sort of drip feed a bit of story within the reasons or the confinement of, we are right now 9, 10 people developing it, so we don't have Ubisoft money to just make whatever we want, right? So, but I do want to split it in that way, and I'm fairly certain that's going to happen. That's going to happen this year. That's probably going to happen before summer as well. That's as much as I can potentially commit to, without molyneuxing myself too much.
So can I
Um,
think of it in a way how Hearthstone has done it, for example, with the PvE, how is it called?
um,
Adventures, I'd say, or is it? I mean, it's the early state,
um,
of course, but how can I expect it to
I,
be?
I, I, I can't
Okay,
really answer that at this point. Then I would just be, I mean, I would be live designing it because we haven't made it yet. We don't have a clear, concise plan for exactly the direction it's going to go. Um, Doing adventures would be fantastic. I would love to do something like that. I think you've all seen the fifth button revealing, I suppose. So there's going to be an events thing coming up in the game very soon, in the next patch, in fact, um, or the next update, which will
or the
have
lock
sort of
tab.
the lock tab, yeah, the fifth button, so our fifth column, that is going to be a time limited, well, special event where the game plays differently because we want to do some alternate gameplay. Um, One of the things we've found in other games from our experiences, one of the things you have to provide to keep players in the game is a distraction from the game. So, like, okay, it doesn't require much, but like if you can play
A slightly
slightly off
different
what you
version, yeah.
normally do, that's sort of what quests try to do as well. Shout out to everyone who's ever made a hag's goddamn thing, um, or bought a frost cleaver or made world's end for that, but like, or or was it the vampire potion? I think we had a couple of quests with as well. Um, the idea with those, which I think was noble intent but practically frustrating, is to get you to play differently, to sort of nudge you to, well, what if you try doing something
And
like
break
this?
up meta a bit also, right?
Sure. I mean, that's a side effect and an extra bonus, but it is really to get you out of your meta because people come in with a preconceived notion. They start, okay, I'm gonna play Ronan and I'm gonna make unbreakable wall and I'm gonna blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, well, you didn't get any of those things. What are you gonna do now? So that's the premise of the game, is to give you some things and then you have to work with that and try to do as well as you can with it. That's also why we've been so hesitant to do things that modify shop percentages or favorite cards, stuff like that, because it sort of undermines the foundation of the game. There's room for something like that, and that's why Banish was the first step in that direction. Where okay, you have some influence. It's not super much, but it's some, and that just feels good. It may even like it feels better than it might be mathematically, but it still feels good to do. To have an influence
I
on it.
mean,
It's
it
not just
depends on how
RNG.
much you ban that it makes mathematically a change. So if you
Sure,
just
sure,
have
sure.
gold bars,
True, true. That happens as well. There is an economic game to it that we sort of have somewhat out of control, but for now that's fine. People are having fun. And,
yeah, it's
um,
always a bit of between balancing and fun, because there are
mhm.
some things that you could just rapidly cut off, but it feels cooler to
Oh yeah.
have some items that are strong, and it's a hard edge where you can't cross, that it is unbalanced and frustrating, but it's unbalanced and still fun. And that's something
Yeah.
which I think is really hard for just not balancing straight up, but also keeping the game fun. And a shout out
Hmm.
there to our balancing team here, because I really think overall everything works out very, very fine. And of course, some things in between break, but you do the updates so regular, so
Well,
it's just a week
it, it
then.
is it is it is a challenge to you also don't want to be the fun police and say, oh, this thing is good. No, it's not. Uh, so because that's a way to go about balancing, and I can understand why the Blizzard with Diablo 3 went. We're not going to nerf anything. We're just going to buff everything else and have everything be crazy numbers because buffs feel great. Almost no matter what it is, it feels great that your hero got a slight buff. Amazing. Um, but if you were completely OP and broken and you got like a slight nerf, it's terrible. I hate this game. So it's there's an extremist to the reaction of it that just is multiplied. So it's a little tricky, and plus sometimes you do the opposite. Like the reason China is somewhat crazy right now, which I that's my fault. I don't want to blame Christopher, even though he's sitting right there thinking about it. No, I did that because scaling is fun, and I think everyone agrees that most everyone who's on the right end of it feels that scaling is fun. The problem for China was just that it scaled on multiple axes at the same time that reinforced each other so that it just went completely crazy. Um, and that just sort of went out of control. And we have that stomped down in 030 as well. She's not bad by any means. She's still she's still better, I think, than she was in 28,
Yeah, we had a
but not.
we had before the rework of China's items, we had a phrase just for everyone who wasn't playing there, where
Mm,
just four heroes were there to that time, and of course, when one underperforms of these four heroes, it immediately
mm,
feels very bad. And we had a phrase there, and then we kind of got the rework to the channel that we have right now, which was very, very
mhm.
cool. And then donuts
I
and
think the
something, and
Sure. I mean, there's always been broken items, and some of it is mechanics that are just unexpectedly broken. We had in the beginning, essences could trigger each other, so that they basically you put four essences next to each other, and they would go infinite, and very quickly just crash the game. So it's like sometimes stuff like that happens where you're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. And if you put the chances like slightly lower, that just didn't happen. Um, and now we have other solutions for it, so it prevents sort of uh, the original one won't trigger again from its own source. So there are some things to make sure that it doesn't just explode. But mechanics like that happens, especially when you make some 50 items that interact in various ways with the existing 400 items. So that's the fun part is also to see what the community comes up with that is crazy. That is like, oh, we should have seen that, and we totally didn't. Um, so we've been very fortunate again to have the Discord community because they're very vocal about when things are broken. Um, which great. Then we're incrementing the way that I approach this kind of the development of Backpack Brawl is to we increment every update, we increment to make it better, hopefully better, and so it's small steps, hopefully in the right direction.
Okay, we
Um,
were at game modes, and I would just put a quick addition to this one. How we talked about the story mode, of course, but
mm,
there are some there are can't talk right now. There are some modes that are requested regular, like endless mode and friends co-op or 2v2, something like that. How do you think about these? I mean, it's always a big time
um,
consumption to do a new game mode, but have you plans on
so
these?
yeah, yes, possibly, maybe. So okay, just to round off, the idea with the story mode, we're gonna split sort of try to split PVE and PvP. So there will be a story mode, and there will be some variation of seasons or seasonal content that is like more leaderboard based, PvP based, sort of the gameplay we have now. That is coming, and that is coming eventually. As for new modes beyond that, so I have your questions. Well, there's some notes with like modes with unique rules. That is the events. So that is coming very soon. Uh, as for endless mode, um, an actual endless mode, almost certainly not. I think I don't want to say never because maybe we get a great idea that just works. But the way we have to do it is um, you have to have someone to play against, and for you to have someone to play against, someone else have to make it to that level. Uh, and if we make it endless, well, we have to have something to match you against at every level. So that is a concrete challenge of doing endless. Um, there's also a design cap on how much can you actually squeeze into one inventory, the size we have. Like in 15 stages or up to 20 stages, you fill your inventory, and you start. When you get to about 10 wins or 10 rounds or however far you do, you start iterating. So it's like, oh, I improve my bags, I improve this item to a better item, and then at some point there's nowhere else to go. So it's like it's perfect now. I'm just going to see how long it goes. And
Yeah.
that kind of gameplay can be fun. If that is what is thought of by Endless, sure. But I don't think the idea of coming back to the shop 60 times is going to be fun. It's going to just choke the life out of you. I think. So what I can promise is that we'll explore it as an event. Just try to do like a longer type of gameplay. So let's see if we set it to 30 wins for you to complete it. What will happen then? Uh, that's a good way for us to try it out for a week or two, and then okay, now we take it back and we sort of use our learnings from it. How many players played it? How did the community like it, etc. That's also we see. I keep saying events, I know, but that's how we see events as a way for
Alexa
us
would
to
fun.
test drive things. Um, so we can test drive crazy rules that we're considering, but might be too weird or powerful or weak or whichever, um, that might be a way to live test it without
Alexa, Fernseher
disrupting
aus.
the community too much. As for friend versus friend, I would love to do some sort of friend mode, but the game is really set up as a asynchronous experience. So doing synchronous gameplay where you're both watching the same match requires a lot of things that we just don't have in place right now. So it's not quite like Hearthstone where you just, I mean, you could do it. It could be done. Then you have to drop the time controls. You can't pause. You have to be live, um, or you lose. All of these things is something that we just haven't built it for. So retooling that, and I'm sure Theo is sitting in the audience thinking about I could totally do that. But no, every time I've brought it up, he sends me dirty looks. So I don't think there's a technical challenge there that we have not done yet, and is like a quite time consuming. So we haven't pursued it just yet. We do want to do something with friends and guilds and clans or something like that. Uh, no concrete plans, nothing announced, but it's an avenue we really want to have. Like this whole social aspect would be great because it works for Discord. It works in Discord. If you could do that, some of that in the game, because Discord is what 5% of our user base. So there's a lot of other players that are just playing in their own little bubble. If we could make that part of the experience, that would be great for us. Great for them, hopefully.
Yeah, I have to say it at this point. Oh, I see my audio is very loud. Let's see how it is on the recording in the end. But I have to say the game is pretty new, and we have to take that into account. Still, it is more than a year now out, I think. But it's still, I
Mm-hmm.
think, in a state. It can't be called early development state. It's really a solid game now. But um, there are many features, of course, they could be added, they could be in, but there wasn't the time till now, because of course new content and keeping the players playing the game is more important than taking the time to really do a new mode when in between the
Mm-hmm.
people would have been lost. So I would just want to say that to all people who thought why and isn't that there. The game isn't that old. Just saying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean we are about what are we, year and well a year 24 we came out, yeah. So it's under a year old at this point. Um, Rapid Fire is a little older than that, but the game is it. And there, yeah, like someone writes, there's a reason it's not a 1x. We're still adding the foundations of the game, and since we are not many people, and we're not like we didn't run it as a soft launch really. We just sort of released it, and things happened, and then it sort of took off and could pay our bills essentially. So that's why we keep working on it. But if we took out 2 months to do something, then the game would just sort of wither. And I think we can see over the Christmas period we've had like a bit longer break between updates, and it shows, but it's not bad. I mean, I think the player base stayed about the same size, and there's not that many people that have fallen off. Uh, but there is a cost to doing long development, and we are still at the size that we can only really do one big thing at a time, maybe two. And yeah, holiday is special, um, but and that's why we took the break. But the cadence of work hasn't really stopped. We're still working in the same tempo we've done before. We're still doing about the same scope of things we've done. Uh, it's just been where it before was hold on to our pants and do it our as best we possibly can in the very limited time. We now have a little more time and a little more time to flesh it out and polish it a bit more. I think you're frozen there, Tom.
No, no, I'm not. I shouldn't.
Huh. Oh, it's just the video then.
Okay, perfect.
Um,
I was restarted. On my screen it works. I can see it.
ah,
Wait a second.
um,
Better?
but yeah, so we loading. So I assume it's in any case we are working as well as fast as we can and as thoroughly as we can. We're trying to sort of go from fast to thorough, and try to keep the quality up uh, and I think we do some test builds here and there, and that helps a lot with like making sure it's not completely broken when we release it. Which we've had some updates where it's like, that was like we had to hotfix here and there. We haven't had to do many hot fixes lately, which is very nice. Um, it's also not something we really want to do. I don't think anyone really wants to have to hotfix something. Um, but things happen. Like these things are complicated, and you can get into weird states where it's like, oh, no one expected this to be able to happen. How did you even do it? So we're trying our best, and I think it's a pretty good result so far, all in all. Um, yeah, I think that's the rant I have on that. Uh,
Okay, let's move to the next question. I have put here community statistics. Is there any plan on giving APs out for community again, I can't talk. For the community statistics, so people can see what are the rates, maybe also for balancing. I mean, I think you have them in turn, right? Balancing statistics, something like that.
sure, sure, sure.
But is there a plan to
Um,
also give it to the players?
uh, no plan. It would really be a bit of an undertaking. The way our system works, some things we track like classic analytics, where it's event based analytics. So whenever someone ranks up or whenever someone plays a game, we get a set of information that we can sort of track and have an idea of how the user base or how the the players are placed in rankings or how they do, which items they use, which items they don't use, stuff like that. Um, Making something like that available to general public is really complicated because we have to get the data in a particular way so that we can give it out, and we don't have that right now. So while I would love to do it, I don't see us doing it just now because it's a like, would you have us work on that or would you have us work on the game? And it's like that's the thing, right? And we are still only 9.5 person doing this. I say 9.5 because we have freelancer as well, but like 10 then. Uh, that's how many people we are working on the game. Um, that was Lisette I was referring to, who's doing music on part time or sound on part time. Um, so yeah. Also remember again, like Tom said, the game is quite young. We didn't have sound in the game until we were in July, I think, uh, because we didn't intend to release with it. And surprisingly, it was a lot of um, how do you say, rope pulling on should we do sounds now, because is it worth it on mobile? It just seems like one of those things that you should have, but a lot of people play with sounds off. Uh, like on a PC, it'd be unprecedented. Of course, you have sound, but on mobile, a lot of people play with it off. I don't think I have the stats for how many people turn it off, but I hope it's this many because we
S-
spend some time making the sounds nice too.
Speaking of PC, is there a plan on expanding to PC also?
We would like to. Um, so in the beginning, we essentially would have said no, but because we feel like I feel like we have sort of taken the mobile market for backpack game. I don't think there's any other game in our specific genre that really challenges us at this point yet. We were so scared back in the beginning of the year that someone else would beat us to it. Like imagine a Supercell or a I don't know, Zynga or one of those the big boys come in and do that. There's none there. The only type of game like that, or the only types of game, is like the simplified ones, like Bag Fights that Voodoo put out, which is, I mean, as close to this as almost a Diablo game, right? It's very much simpler. Backpack Hero, I don't remember which one that is. There is a new one that was called Backpack or Backpack Fights. which is a little closer,
Actually,
but
I
we
get
don't really
ads in your game for this game.
And there were other games that were saying they were coming out. There was also Rucksack Rumble, which was a very nice guy who was on that, who I've also chatted with. But I think he stopped now because it was mostly just he was a one man operation, and but like there wasn't really any serious competitor. And the reason we haven't moved into PC is because we feel like that niche is sort of covered by Backpack Battles right now. Obviously, Backpack Battles, that's the originator of ours as well on Steam. Um, so, and it comes from earlier from, I guess that's Backpack Hero was the one where you're running around in a little dungeon. Um, that's I consider that basically a different type of game. Backpack Battles is the same type of game, but we're trying to differentiate ourselves from them, and they're trying to differentiate in their whatever direction they want to go. When we started, we basically said we looked at Backpack Battles that that's a cool game. We don't like the art. This is an ugly game, but it's fun. It's a really fun game. It's a great idea. So we just said, okay, well, let's make it better then. Again, put our money where our mouths is and just see if there's an audience for it. And here we are. We
So
have 30 people in the audience.
if someone of these of the developers of the other games seeing this on YouTube later on, maybe. Hi.
Well, I mean, no, yeah. Hello. I have all sorts of respect for Backpack Battles. They are a small team, smaller than us, which is also why they have been asked many times. I've seen uh, if they're coming to mobile, and they have had like clones of their game, which is like it's one thing to do it the way we do it, where we're doing our own take on something, but they have like literal, you know, Chinese clones, meaning they've ripped the assets and done it, and that sucks.
Yeah.
That's just not right. So I think at least we have. I don't want to say moral high ground, but at least we have moral middle ground on doing our own thing with it. Um, at least that's our attempt at doing our own thing with it, and it seems like people like it a lot. Some people think we were the first, but we were not. Battles was there before. They're also in 1.0 now, which doesn't say anything, but you know, versions is versions. Um, but anyways, so actually about moving to PC. Sorry, I just had a little highway roundabout. Um, yes, we want to do it, but we probably don't want to do the classic Steam um, because we really want to keep focus on making it the best game it can be on mobile. So what we've looked at is Google Play Games has a Google Play Games for PC, which is a variation of an emulator, but it works. So we have actually been looking into doing that for Android and doing Mac on Apple Silicon. You can also do that without doing more work, uh, without having to do a specific build for it, which we would like to do. I don't have any estimates on when we will do it, but we have had a task on exploring it to just sort of see if we put it out on that, how much will it explode? And not a lot. So it might happen sooner than you think in
All
some
right.
capacity. And I know some people play it on BlueStacks, which we don't support, but I'm not going to stop you from playing in that. If I it's only good for us if more people play. So no, go for it. As long as you don't cheat.
Yeah, the cheating debate.
Mm.
All right. I just don't have that many questions. Three or four that I want to ask, of course, but after that we can go for the
Go for
community
it. I,
questions.
I I have no time limit on this, so just go for it. We can
Perfect.
get through it all.
Okay, then go for next question. Long-term plans. How do you think or how do you want the studio that now designs Backpack Brawl's Rapid-Fire Games uh, is going to be? So will you have new games? Will you stick to this game only? Will this be the root source only game, I mean? Or
Mm.
what are your th plans on expanding the studio?
Um. Okay. So Studio wise, it's 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 a bit of a longer story, I suppose, but unlike all the other ones who were so short. Um, I think I think we want to expand, and I think we want to start prototyping other games as well, but we won't do it right now. We are at a comfortable size of us 9-10 people, which is like everyone reasonably knows everyone, and we can well, without our, we have a couple of remote workers, but otherwise we can all be in the same office and talk together and iterate quickly. Um, our our long term thought process behind it, at least, is that there would be a team around Backpack Brawl, which can grow to about 12, 13, 14 people. And at that point, you can bubble off 2, 3 people to do a prototype, see if there's something to that. And if there is, then maybe that can grow into its own cell or its own soap bubble, however you want to do it. And if it's not, then they get absorbed back into Backpack Brawl, and then we keep the machines going there. So right now, Backpack is funding the company essentially, uh, but we want to, for our primary concern, fear, whatever you want to call it, has to be survival, because we started out basically with very little, and we want to make sure that we can survive, we can keep our employees paid, we don't have to lay anyone off. Like 2024 was a terrible year for video games, for video game developers, that is. So we had plenty of good games, but so many people have been laid off because people overestimate what they can do, and overestimate how things will sell. We have gone about the other way and tried to be as frugal as we can and make sure that the game can support us, which thankfully it can right now. But we wouldn't want to scale to like, oh, we're going to be 30 in March. No, 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 no. So we might scale a little bit. I have some people I would like to hire just to add a little bit more muscle mass to the different departments, because we are, like, you always have bottlenecks, right? So that just happens because you always have uh, potentially too many programmers for UI. There's only Sarah doing UI now, and then we have Daniel and me helping whatever we can with that, at least with the design of it, and Christopher as well. Uh, but that would be a bottleneck on that end. Daniel is the only artist. That's a bottleneck. Uh, we in the design team, we have to be ahead of the developers as well. Well, that's another bottleneck on certain times. So like, game development is a rocky road where you have different bottlenecks, and we want to give ourselves a little bit more muscles to be able to take time and go into the depths of it, and proper, I want to say quality control, but that sounds like it's just testing. It is like making sure that what we release is cool, and good, and not rushed. So I could see us growing to about maybe 15, 16 people, but it really depends on what happens once you have a bit more and try prototype 2. Because if prototype 2 does the same thing as this, then that wants to be 10 people as well, real quick. So I'm not 100% sure. There are some options on the table that we're looking at. Uh, we were talking to someone about doing like an external game for someone else, since we sort of proved that we can make games, um, but just couldn't. We didn't have the manpower to do it now because we want to make Brawl the best game it can be, um, and we're still working on that.
Talking about
Um,
version 0.
mhm.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I'm hoping that when we do story mode and we do like this seasonal PvP, that will be the 1.0 time. I want to make it only happen when make that happen when we make something that is, a major feature, like almost a game breaking feature, where it's like, we have to, I don't know, if we have to reset ranks, or we have to do something where this is now a different system, then that would be a big enough step to say, okay, we are going into 1.0. But no announcements on that any, yet.
Resetting
We might.
ranks would probably be bad for most people. Just saying that.
Well, I mean, it depends. What if ranked goes away and it becomes something entirely different? Then it's like,
Okay,
okay, well,
right.
what
That's
then?
true.
Um,
But we have some people who really grinded hundreds of hours just putting the ranked
yes,
numbers up, and just taking these away
I
from would
agree.
be horrible for them.
Yeah. Oh
That's what
yes.
I
Oh
meant.
yes. Yeah. Sure. I mean that there is something to be said for the grind and the work that's been put into the game now, where you have to be able to recognize when people have put in a lot of effort, um, and I imagine that we will have some variation of achievements or something that will reflect that before we take it away, if we take it away, or I mean it could also be that we don't take if you are in diamond you might not have to start on bronze zero. You can do something where based on you're squished instead of stuff, right? So that is something we're still figuring out, um, but we'll be in touch on the details on what we want to do for future ranked. Um, but I don't want to just take it away. That would suck for everyone, especially me who has to hear the feedback on that. um,
The ticker is gonna be
um,
big. My rank progress is
mm.
gone.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we made an early decision of using Epic as cloud save. I mean, we took a while before we got cloud save, which has its own story, but we chose Epic because we could do cross-platform transfers easily. Uh, it turns out that is not what people want. They just want backup. Um, some people might want it, and it's still I think it's still lingering in there. But we really encourage you to use the iCloud and Google Play now, and it really has shown in the data that people do use it. So that is just interesting. Where our assumption were like way off from what the community actually wanted. So that happens too.
Okay, I just think one big question here that would interest me personally, and then I will give my speech away to the community here. And that is
Mhm.
actually the personal questions. What is your favorite item in the game?
Oh, my favorite item is easy. My favorite item is Bombus. Bombus is my little baby.
Yeah, of
Um,
course, when he was just added, I remember.
um, so no, but there's a lot of different cool items. I think. I love that we got. I love that we got the stone golem out, and then Backpack Battles made it like a month later. It's like, oh, okay, we see how it is. Um, so that has a certain sort of feel to me as well. Um, I like I like the early scythes we had. So the Soul Stealer and the Bloodletter was my own sort of visual design as well, and I'm very happy with them. Uh, I think there's a lot of cool. There are some weird items like Harkon's World's End is a weird axe sword thing. But it's cool, and I like it. I like a lot of the items. I I think we have a lot of like we have attempted some items that we just couldn't really make work as well, both visually and stuff. Because there's like challenge with the 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 what's it called the visual design of the angle of how it lies in the backpack, and you should be able to rotate it, but it's actually 2D, so the light moves around weird. It's a real challenge to make items that look really cool.
Yeah, we
Um,
just had the full, I think it was the last patch probably, the new item designs for many items. I just
mhm,
noticed today when I play some items that have changed the design, which I didn't notice before, and I just wonder, is it all
mhm.
the same patch?
There was a lot of post Christmas updating of art. Um, so we want to continually just improve the art of what we have, and some of the items were just not quite up to snuff for various reasons, which you can probably guess. Uh, But I mean, we've gone over them to just make them better. And some of them, I know there's been some contention about. Medium bag has some naysayers. I will admit, but other than that, I think it's generally our intention is that it's an improvement. And down the line, theoretically, we would like to do skins of things as well. You know, there's a challenge that we noticed in Hearthstone Battlegrounds, where when you have skins for heroes you already know and they're like vastly different, there starts to be a communication issue. And it's like, is that Ragnaros? I don't know. It just so there's this challenge there, and that's the reason we haven't gone down the the skinning of items, because I think that will probably be too confusing for players. We might be able to do something with a shine or an effect on it or something like that. One thing I would love to do in general in the game is to add more things on the items themselves. Um, so like you could see, oh, when Excalibur has to count up to do a certain amount of an effect. Well, what if you had a counter on the actual sword in some capacity, or like a visual indicator of it? Similar, the Celeste items were the first that touches on that, and I think we're going to do more of that if we can.
Speaking of skins, I think I had a talk with Daniel sometime about um, how you could use the outline of the backpack, the outer line of the inventory, I mean, as skins. So you could do there maybe vines or flames, something
Oh,
like that,
sure, sure.
or the shop itself, that the shop gets some skins, something like that. We
Hmm.
talked about these, and which
Hmm.
would definitely just benefit yourself, but also I think would be cool for many
It's
people,
cool.
but it's also time
We
again.
want to. Yeah, it's a matter of priority and figuring out how where do you get the most bang for your buck, because we were looking at doing something like that for areas, for instance, where it's like, oh, we're looking at Clash Royale and say, oh, now when you get to the snow thing, now you're fighting on a snow thing. That's awesome. Can we do that? But there's really very little room to do it. So we're trying to figure out how can we do it in a way that is like where it makes a difference, because whether the edge is gold or bronze is not going to do a huge difference. So it's like we have evaluated so far that it hasn't been worth it, but it might be something that we will retouch in relation to the story mode and seasonal stuff.
Speaking
Um,
of areas, there is a feature when you hit an area where the sound changes to that area. And
mm,
that's a detail which I noticed very, very, very yeah, let me begin the sentence elsewise. Um, that I noticed just recently when I was already playing a lot before. And I when I noticed that the areas have different sound, that I feel immersed in this area, that was very
mhm.
very cool. And I just I mean I felt it
Um,
before. I knew I was in that area based on the sound, but I didn't actively notice it.
well, I'm happy you felt it, because the ambience is new, relatively new, and I know there's been a lot of love gone into that from our sound designer Lisette. Um, but it is such a subtle thing. So the reason we added it was also that if you turn off the music, then it's like there's nothing, and it's like recording with when you record an interview with uh, on TV or so on. You usually record the room with nothing going on, so that you can have the ambient, nothing is ever really silent. So having something that adds a little bit of flavor, in that sense, gives a lot. We also want to do more stuff like that. So we did for the Christmas was the first one where we've done a custom music theme, which some people think is the default theme, but it's not. The one that is live is the default. Um, so we would love to do more like that as well to separate the experience of the game in time. Um, if you open the area, if you click on the portrait that's there with the area and you scroll through them, you will actually get the different ambient sounds as well. And we are looking into we considered doing something where the area you were in was more of the whole background, and we tried it a bit, but it got really messy, so we sort of backtracked on that and didn't pursue it further at that time. We might still do that though, in some capacity.
That's
Um,
actually something where you could get some money out of too, to survive.
really?
Okay,
I
I
mean,
would be.
there's a whole aspect, sorry, there's a whole aspect of customization that is a lot of fun, and that some people really like. So like we are pursuing that in some capacity. We'll see what it ends up with, but we want to do customization. Uh, but go on, please.
Yeah, that's what I was wanting to say. I'm actually done. My questions are here now, fully taken into. We talked about everything that I have mentioned here in my script somewhere. So for now, I could say if somebody else has questions, now is the time. You can start. And yeah, Nick is just answering.
I have to scroll through all of this. Oh boy. Uh,
Yeah, they can just
I'll
they can just re-ask it if they have asked earlier and we don't have said something to it. I don't think it
So
has to be
okay,
scrolled.
I'll grab one. So Borealis asked, I'm just not sure that this game is one fitting for customization. Maybe not. Um, the thing is, if you can show it off, if you can have it in your fights, that might be worth something. That might be fun. So we might I expect us to experiment with it a little bit and see if there's any interest in it. Because it's really about what the community wants. We can do all these things, but if no one wants it, then it's just wasted effort. Um, so it's a matter of priorities and seeing what makes sense. Um, can I leak a new character? Uh, well, our latest character might leak, literally. Um, no, soon this week. Um, why are y'all so damn lovable? I blame my parents. They were damn lovable too.
That's
Um,
sweet.
so the why star placements for some items are so clumsy that we can't use some stars. That's sort of the game. You have to recognize where they are and how to optimize it. And sometimes we might not have thought it as long as you do when you're sitting with why is this so stupid. So go to the balance thing, talk about why it's stupid and what you would like instead, because honestly, we do it mostly where it makes sense for flavor. So, like, okay, right now I had a discussion with Bewheated about where should the star on the dragon leaf be, because spoiler warning, if it hasn't happened already, that's going to be 1 star.
It is
Um,
already.
and I Is it already okay? Well, I placed it on the bottom, and the reason I placed it on the bottom, it looks like you've set the thing into something. And his argument was it should be at the tip because it feels like, and sometimes it doesn't really matter, but you can spend a lot of time talking about this. So we place it where it for us makes sense to place it, and sometimes it's also just some designer that's being a smarty pants that wants you like I'm just gonna screw with them, so I'm gonna. So sometimes we can change it. It's not like it's set in stone. Um, so yeah, please let us know if something is like particularly annoying, and we're happy to revisit if needed. Sometimes we won't, but sometimes we will. Um, for April Fools, can the whole game be Danish for 24 hours? Ugh. I hope not. Like we put Danish in the localization. So I had one. There was one question that Tom didn't ask, but that he had in the list he gave me, which was like, "What was my biggest disappointment or toughest challenge?" And the toughest challenge for me has been localization. Uh, it is such a pain in my behind. Luckily, not anymore because I've given the task to Lars, so now it's a pain in his behind. But it is so much work to handle different languages, different alphabets, things that just don't work the same. Like Korean has no singular plural, so what do you do then? It's really challenging. So like it is really a lot of effort for, I think, a really small payoff. So we have like 15 languages or so in the game right now, and I think players use the first five, and then the rest are like this much. The reason we put Danish in there is really just to be our canary in the coal mine, to say, okay, we know Danish quite intimately, so as our native speakers, so we can see how bad is the translation, and sometimes it's really bad, you guys. So which we like we see that to see the level of what translations are, and we try to make that as good as we possibly can. But it's just a lot of work. So making it Danish, you can go into settings and change it and have fun, but I don't want to force it. um, uh, where companies like us go to find workers. So honestly, we're still small enough that all the employees we have right now, they are people we already knew. So we came out of Kilu, which was a bigger development company for mobile as well. We all knew each other from there. Some left a long time ago, and some left when we were all let go. So the four of us that came from there, we founded the company, and then as we grew and had capacity for it, we pulled people in that we knew like were that we really wanted. It was like we would like to yoink you. The first one we hired was Andreas because in for, fortunately for us, he got available suddenly when we had the means for it. So it was like yoinks, you're with us now, and that's basically what it's been like with the other guys as well. We yoinked them at the right time, so we haven't actively looked for people. Some people have written us like, I would like to work with you, blah blah blah, and it's like LinkedIn calls. It's like, I mean, thank you, but we're not in a position where we're hiring a lot, so we're being very careful about it because we want to make sure that we don't like overhire and then run out of money and have to close. And especially also, there's a lot of overhead in interviewing and trying out, and some capacity of doing the whole hiring process. Like, we don't really have HR. I'm HR, which is the worst possible choice, but there we are. Um, so what you can do right now, if you want to work with us, is basically to write us. Write us an email, uh, and show your work. And if we're in a position where we can hire and it makes sense, then heck yeah. We would like ideally to have people in Denmark or like within reasonable time zones. So like it's really rough if someone is in New Zealand or the US or something like that for us right now. But oh, we can talk. Doesn't hurt. Uh, Rock and Stone. We love deep rock. Um, Full Night asks important question. Rock and Stone. Yes, rock and stone. Um, in so many words, we actually live on the floor below Fun Day Games, which did Deep Rock Survivor, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, which also is a fantastic game. If you haven't played it on Steam, do it now. It's great. We love them. There's also a lot of ex colleagues that are up there. Um, so okay, let's see. I hope I don't jump over anyone. Just I'm just going slowly through the chat. How does the shop chooses which? How does the shop choose which items to sell? Is there any logic behind it? Yes, there's always logic behind things, but it's not like complicated logic. It's random, so it chooses a rarity first that is based on the chances you can see when you click the hero portrait in shop. You can see the chances for that particular stage. It rolls that, and then within that, it rolls for all the items that are available to that character. That accounts for banishing. There's not really much other sneaky logic behind it,
Just the
except for
backpacks.
the bag pity, which is like every 11th item will be a bag if you haven't had a bag in the meantime. So there will only ever be 11 items without a bag,
To avoid
and that
frustration.
has worked. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we did it without in the beginning, and once you've rolled 3 times and still missing a bag, it sucks. So this was a good way to sort of soften that. And you can manipulate that a little bit by banishing bags. Go for that if you want to get all the speed bags. Uh, but yeah, that's that. Will we get a leaderboard soon? Um, we will get a kind of leaderboard because events will have leaderboards in them, and they are coming soon. Generalized leaderboard for like ranking or something like that, not right now. Now we have sort of the mechanics for being able to set up leaderboards, so there might be something following that. We have shied away from making a generalized leaderboard because, like an all-time forever high score list, is not really something that's all that interesting because it very quickly gets filled by either cheaters or people who are crazy good, and then you can never beat them, and they're just there forever. So we want to do something that has some form of like similar to a ladder reset or something that is there for a while and then it goes away. So once we have seasons, that might be a thing.
I gonna
And
battle
there is an
myself with
eye
Painsaw
teaser.
there.
What do we have? How do you ensure power creep doesn't happen? Oh, we just buff Jenna. Uh, no, we do. We are trying very hard to balance everything, and the way we make up the numbers, it is largely it's a balance of gut feeling and some stat sheets that are like, okay, how much would this make if you do this and so on. It is really difficult to balance nicely uh, because it's also a matter of you want each player to feel powerful, so that their build is powerful when things synergize and everything works. It has to be awesome. But sometimes you have someone like Tom who makes something completely insane that breaks the game, and then it's like, okay, well, how can I balance something for being powerful when you have one or when you have the whole bag full of that? So then you have to do something with diminishing returns. As soon as we do diminishing returns, then it doesn't do what it does or what it says it does, and that sucks. So the only thing we've done so far is to have some caps on things like damage reduction will only cap down to 75%, I believe, and haste will only increase you by or decrease your cooldown by about 90%, so you can never become infinitely fast because it would just break the game eventually. um, so and we rely a lot on you guys to really tell us when this is actually broken. You guys, what is this? And then we'll like look at it and see what we can do. And sometimes things can linger for a bit. I think Buzz has been a little low power for a while now because after his release, we nerfed him and then we nerfed him again. He was still strong, so we nerfed him a third time, and now he's not that strong. So he's gonna get a little bit of love in 030 as well to make it more interesting.
Talking of Buzz,
So
I've played him a lot recently just to test him out,
uh huh.
how's the state and so on. And I must
Mm-hmm.
say, his B build kind of sucks, at least if you don't have too much of luck that you can
Hmm.
stack.
So
But the
remember
rest
that,
of him is pretty good actually. He's still not in a very bad position, just to say that.
yeah. Remember that when we nerfed him, when we pushed the accuracy of the bees down, we our luck was stronger. Since then, we changed luck to be only 3% increase in accuracy. It used to be five. So you used to be like boop, 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 and then you were 100, and then it was problem solved. Now you actually have to find quite a lot of clovers to get you up there, or other items that can interact with
I
that.
recommend roses at
So
this point.
or roses. So we have increased accuracy for bees a bit again because it was a little too much in the ground. Um, but that'll come very soon. Um, how do you make Backpack Brawl so awesome so rapidly? Well, I mean, we are called Rapidfire. Um, so the story about Backpack Brawl, just a little bit of the step of that is that we were on a company trip and wanted to do it, and then we decided it's too much of a PC game. It doesn't make sense. We'll try something else, and then we tried to play with the mechanics of the interaction. We did something we called what did we call it? Color. Color match or something like that. We tried some different things where you did something similar. We sort of solved the problems we had, which was like rotation, which we still know people try to throw items up to rotate. Don't do that. Tap with another finger. We there's going to be tutorial eventually, I swear. Uh, but that was the main problem we had was like how do you rotate nicely with a phone? And when we sort of landed that, when we came back, and those original prototypes weren't really they were going into like a puzzle kind of direction, which was like okay for us to make a puzzle game, we have to make 1,000 puzzles and expand it the next week with 1,000 more because players are faster than we are making them. So we wanted to make it more repeatable, and that's sort of the original. Then was that me and Daniel put our head together and said, what if we just did a backpack thing? And then I think I came up with the name Backpack Brawl, sort of slide it to him. He was like, yes, yes, that. And then we sort of let's say strong armed or convinced the other guys, let's give it a shot and see what we can do with it. And then the rest of that is history. Um, so like actually, how do we do it? Is we all have quite a lot of experience doing games. So and we play a lot of games. Tom had some questions about what's our favorite games that we play, or what do we play right now that we didn't get to. But like I play a lot of games like this. I played Dredge a lot. That had like a little inventory Tetris that also made me feel good. And Diablo, right now, I've been playing Path of Exile 2, which is also a fantastic game, but holy shit, that's complicated. Um, but it is fantastic. A lot of fun. I would love to play with you guys at some point if you want to socially interact. Um, like, we have a lot of experience in it. And I want to say we have good taste, so we somewhat choose good directions with this. Um, and that's also the thing. We have to select directions really quick and make fast decisions to be able to keep up with our update cadence. Uh, and so far, we've done that fairly well, I think. There's absolutely things where we've missed or done something bad, or not bad, but poorly. And that happens. Can't hit them all. But we're doing the best we can. How does critical hit chance and normal hit chance work? Um, I mean, like it does in most games. So there's no secret logic on that, Slayer. Um, it is just you roll a percentage, you hit, and if you hit, then you roll a percentage again. Did you crit? Um, it's either that or it's been collapsed into one roll. I don't think we did that. I think we did it in two steps. Um, Functionally the same, but it's a type of hit you then do. Under the surface, it does send some signals that I hit and I did the critical hit. That gets picked up by the combat log and the player controller and all that. Yes. So like that's how that works. How often do you draw ideas from Discord? From Discord, game, hero, and item suggestion channel. Um, I think I draw more from game ideas myself, because there are really cool hero ideas as well. But we generally have an idea of where we want to go or what we want to do. So there's been a couple that have really stood out to me as like I want to do that one at some point. I still have there's the mute was made by someone. Forgive me, I forget who. Uh, but mute the mycologist, the mushroom guy. I think that's a fantastic idea. I want to do that. I just don't have a place for it right now, so it's not the next hero coming. But eventually, I'm going to make something like that. Absolutely, because that also fits within our fantasy world. I want to think of us like in a almost an anime fantasy where it's like Dungeon Meshi or Delicious in Dungeon, where you can have that kind of animals and you can have so like a mushroom guy. Heck yeah. And there are many different ones. There are some that are more D&D specific, and so on. I don't need to dive into that. The hero ideas I glance at. I see some things when it stands out. The item ideas, I very rarely look at specific item things. I look at it, but I don't. I generally don't do them exactly like they are. Uh, but for balancing, I lean a lot on it. And like some things have been suggested, and we're like, yeah, that's like almost verbatim what we would like to do. So we just in with that. But new items, is more has been more Daniel the creative director's table. So I don't think he's been looking there much, but I imagine he has.
Also,
I haven't personally so much.
when
Go on.
I've observing this for a long time, and I felt like it's less of taking one by one the items that were put in there, but I felt a lot like new mechanics and so on, which were
Mm.
originally thought in the ideas channel and were posted there, that these ideas of how items could interact and what abilities could be were taken into account into new items.
Mm.
That's what I felt like personally.
I mean, there has been. I mean, all great mind thinks alike, right? So there is design space for certain things, and we might think in the same way independently as well, where we haven't necessarily looked specifically and said, yes, the thing you did there, we're going to do that. We might have just thought the same thing. Um, so I'm just saying I'm looking more in game ideas because that's my area of expertise of trying to sort of push the big lines of the game instead of the little lines. Even though I've been fiddling with items lately. Slayer, you say some buffs can make critical hit chance to 100%. Yeah, I mean it caps at 100% right now, and if you get more, then it's still just 100% because you're gonna crit every time. Um, there is a we fiddled with the idea of what if you could do a super crit, uh, where it's like if you have 150%, well then you crit and you have 50% chance to do an additional crit on top of that. But we haven't done that yet because it sort of goes crazy in scaling. So we have sort of been a little careful with that.
every time I
It's
hear
something that I
something,
would like to
every time I
do.
hear something like this personally, I always start instantly thinking of builds I want to do with this. It just doesn't
uh,
take me a second.
yeah. Paused asks, will there be a different way to choose a hero in the future as the number of heroes increase? Sometimes difficult to find a new hero. Uh, yes, we are taking the randomness away from the hero selection before combat or before a new run. Exactly when I don't want to say because I don't want to commit to when, but we are actively looking at how to solve that in a good way. Are you planning to make possible one? Oh boy, I can't
That's
read
a
that.
new
But
game
birdie,
mode,
are
probably.
you planning to make it possible to do 1v1 with a friend? Is it possible to make a custom game with a friend? So it's not possible right now. It's something I would like to do, but it has to make sense, right? So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to do as a full shop, fight for 15 runs in a row because one of you is going to get ahead and crush the other one, and then you're done. So uh, I would like an idea I'll throw out here that I've been thinking about is I would like to be able to do something with your great inventory builds. So I made a build that I had 15 wins and no losses, and now I'm done. Okay, what if I could do something with that build? Like, uh, what if I could use it to attack someone? And then there's a specific 1v1 kind of thing there. Or I can raid them, it's like a classic mobile thing. Or I can set it up as defense and it can defend me for a while. It defended against 10 attackers, so I get a bonus or something. So, like, do something with the inventory you spent so long to make. That's what I would like. So if that was a thing where you could save something you've built and you can use that as a hey, let's try our best builds against each other. I could see that. That could happen.
I'd love that.
Potentially.
That's cool. That's very cool, the idea.
Um, so what else do we have? Already been addressed. Okay, Rock and Stone Forever. Yeah, that's right. Okay, there's a lot of chat. Sorry if I'm skipping anyone. Any thought put to rarity chance? Sorry. Any thought to put rarity chances in simple colored terms on the shop page so we don't have to click the hero portrait every time? Like originally we had it like hidden on. If you clicked the shop, it would like come out. Um,
I think it's
I
oh,
want to. I
what,
want to
what
say that we are looking at how we can best use our space. But it's really like advanced knowledge anyway. Like, how often do you have to use it? Like, it's one thing to have your gold, that's pretty relevant because you're buying. But the percentage is like a extra knowledge. So that's why we haven't put it out there.
I mean,
Um,
I am using it when I'm actively spending on a specific build, like the build I've done that got on Reddit with the scrolls. So just for the
mhm,
context, I have made the bleed scrolls of Sage in multiple stacks and came to a build which was very hard to make. So please don't change the scrolls to just avoid that totally. But I have gotten 24 scrolls, and this, of course, cause every time the bleed doubles an insane build. But to make these kind of builds, you really have to hardly optimize on the chances to roll in the right times, saving up rolls for these times, and so on. If you really want to hyper optimize, but still, then it's
mm,
I don't look at the rarities then very often, just for if I'm
mhm.
searching for the sweet spot for maybe rare
Sure.
things.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to do things that interact with that as well. Like there is design space for having a hero or items even that can interact with that percentage and make, the next every three roll you have a 50% extra chance to make a mythic. Okay, stuff like that is interesting as well. But then you sort of have to indicate that and visualize that as well. That's a big. It's a good idea and really difficult to do elegantly. Then I see that Painsor, who I fail to mention all the time, really wants to be mentioned. So here's to you, Painsor. Um, what else do we have? Thank you for making such a great game. Oh, thanks, Yeji. Yeji. Well, thanks a lot. We're happy you like it. Um, I'm gonna have to change Painsor back to yellow just so he doesn't get his big hat on. Um, rapid fire leaderboard in different games? Sure. I mean, let's start by making a leaderboard in the one game, and we'll take it from there. Um, if given the opportunity, would you guys use licensed content for a new character? Uh, possibly. Yeah, sure. Um, I would like it to make somewhat sense before we do it. So like that could be a real possibility since we now have a fairly big publisher behind us. So deals could be made uh, with Azure Games, who have been very nice and kind to us. So thumbs up. Uh, so stuff like that is within our purview. We might, but like I wouldn't put Michael Jordan in our game, but I would put potentially an anime character or a fantasy character. Like if D&D comes knocking, I'll open the door. Um, you know, we're also trying to sort of, in a way, establish our own fictional world or our own world, I suppose. But we haven't spent, a lot of time fleshing that out. I have a bit of a storyline that makes sense. I have some new hero poetry for the new hero that'll come out later. But other than that, we haven't dug into that. So if it fits, sure. Um, if Buzz is the Pet's Poison Thorns guy, sounds like he's be the plant's mushroom guy. That might be the mushroom guy I was talking about before. Possibly. I also still have a sweet spot for doing like a gardener kind of thing that touches more on growing flowers and stuff. Um, yeah. I also want to add more sprites because I love the little sprites, the fire sprite and the frost sprite. They're lovely.
Poison sprite.
Yeah, lightning sprite is the one I'm thinking about
All
for
right.
Celeste. Uh, there's lots of whenever we can get around to doing those, I want to. Backpack bag constructor when? Oh, sorry, I skipped. I'll come back to that. Backpack bag constructor when? There is the backpack Brawl Pro that Louis, uh, I forget his last name because it's very French, but he did. Um, it's a bit outdated at this point, but it's a really cool mechanic. Uh, like do it in a website, do it like Max Roll or any of those. Wowhead was the old style one. Guide sites to have it on there. If I could put it together quickly, I would put it on our own website because our own website has very little on it right now. Um, and otherwise, you can make the link, Borealis. That's fine. I don't mind. Uh, he's perfectly kind, and there's a lot of ads on it, but that's between you and him. But if someone else wants to do something like that, I, I'd be happy to help with what I could within the time frame that I can. Um, we're not going to do it in game, I think. At least not right now. But it's not something that's impossible to do. It's just I haven't been wanting to do like people have asked in the beginning. They asked a lot about can we get a sandbox mode, and I think that the game is the sandbox in a way. So like the whole challenge is when everything plays, it's amazing, and if you can build it and test it out in the sandbox, then it sort of it undermines that a bit. So that's why I haven't pursued it. But doing it on a website, sure. Oh, there was also an actual question about a sandbox. I don't even need to ramble. You guys will ask me. Um, are you considering transfer every critical hit past 100% to damage with some coefficient? Have considered it. Have not done it yet. Might not do it at all. But we're like, yeah, it's a little dangerous to start doing something like that. Seeing the stars without buying would also be a nice option. Yeah, yeah. We have some challenges with when we show stars and exactly how that should be there. I also would love them to be in the item viewer in the item overview. The reason we don't have them now is because some of them have stars that go all over the place, so it would overlap weirdly, or they would hide under the tooltip. So it's like it's a little bit of a challenge. Maybe putting them on the tooltip itself. It's one of those UX issues that we want to fix and make better. And eventually, we'll find a good solution. Uh, what is the percentage of players that actually reach mythic rank? It's low. Mythic is mean. Uh, it's even with our changed ranking points that we did relatively recently, it's still really mean. So it's not easy to get there. I would love to make it a little less of a grind. But since it's right now is forever rank, then we haven't we're not approaching that again right now. But we likely will for seasons. I imagine for seasonal play, these kinds of rankings will be squished a bit compared to what they are now, just so that it's more achievable to get to a reasonable position. Just a bit more achievable, at
Just
least.
to give a little insight, when you are at or near the mythic now, um, you really don't get like any points if you don't get a clean 15. So you get, I think it's like 3 or 4 rank points per match on a
It
15. It's really hard.
not anymore. Not anymore.
Not
It should,
anymore?
it
Okay.
should be better now. You should be able to. That has actually changed. So right now you can get up to if you get 10 wins, you will not go down uh, on any rankings except when you're in Mythic. Um, so it's not like 15 wins or nothing. It used to be if you got 15 wins in Mythic, you got +2 points. If you got 14, you got -2. So it's like really mean. And that was the whole way up from Diamond. Like not like that, but a similar, but a scale. The scale has been upended, so it's like quite a lot more achievable now. But you still have to win a lot. Collaboration. One Punch Man in Backpack Brawl. Maybe I have trouble seeing him fit, but maybe as a temporary thing. Uh, is this is the shape of some items simply due to balancing reasons? For instance, shapes that have items that have shapes like a Tetris brick. So he's also asking about whether you should have a mirror, and that's something that people have asked before. The reason we don't do mirroring is that's the game. You have to work with what's there. Mirroring would open up an entire different can of worms for us mechanically, because then we have to start tracking that as well. And I think how you interact with the items would then you would have to have more floating buttons to be able to mirror it. So we don't think that's for the amount of effort from you guys to play with that wouldn't be worth it, in my perspective. Um, there's probably more than 5 people, but in Mythic, but not much more. um, bu- 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 yeah, so I think I've gotten to the bottom. Is there anyone that have a question that I have skipped or they want to hear real quick? I see several people typing, so I'll just sit here for a bit. I can also see that we had a bunch of questions that you had listed up that we didn't do anything about, but
We can add them in here, of course. Yeah. I just
yeah, I'm just looking at
skipped a
what.
little at the important questions to give the community
Yeah,
who doesn't want to wait the full time. It has to go at some point, just to give the in between a
yeah,
chance before we, yeah, spread out the all, I
sure.
think, 30 questions that I had here.
No, that's okay. We don't have to dig into it and dig into everyone, but like we are actively developing things, and there will be an update this week. I hope we're gonna submit it tomorrow, at least unless something bad is there. Um, and where roadmap.
Maybe
I'm gonna do a dev blog after this about the next update, and then we'll see if there's a roadmap update coming. I haven't had time to do it essentially. Um, I see there's a question about beard age. Um, when did I? So I started growing a beard in 2020, but I've had it off once or twice since then. So like a couple of years probably. Um, or anything else? Is there gonna be like a site or something where I could see my stats, win rate, games played? So I want to make like a player profile where you can see your stuff. You can see statistics about how you've been doing. Match history would be something that would likely live in there as well. I Ideally, if we can make it work, I would like you to be able to see a match history, click it, and replay your match and see it again. And say, oh, that's how it is. And then theoretically, that way you could share matches with each other with a little link, and then you can see someone else's match if there's something like that. Just saying that makes Theodore sweat because then he has to make that. But it's a little complicated to do, but I would love to do it. And it's something we want to be able to do. It's just really more complicated than you might think. Um, what inspirations do you use when creating new heroes and items? Um, so we tend to start with a seed of a hero idea. So some are more complicated than others. So I can reveal that uh, Sage was Theo's idea. So we threw it over to him. It's like, okay, come with a hero concept, and then we'll see if we can make that happen. And he had like images and concepts, and like, I want this and I want that and this thing and so on. And there was like 5 different directions to go with the items. So we helped sort of develop that to trim it down to what Sage is now, which is like poison and blood. Um, and some ideas are somewhat simpler, like uh, with Buzz, which I came with, is I want a bee guy, please. That was the concept. And it's like, okay, well, what can we even do with that? And then Daniel went off on a tangent to like make bugs and insects and bees and stuff, and then we sort of landed with the direction that we had. So I think we use what we like, and then also sort of some sanity checking on what do we have and what fits in with the rest. And then from the seed of the idea, it's like you get the we need this many mythic items. We need this many common items. We need to have sort of a vertical um, cycle here. So like this has to go into this, it goes into this, and here is his high level thing. Uh, how much does it interact with the things we have already? Are there things already that we can work with? So is there any items that have the seeds of something that's bigger than what it actually is? Um, so a food hero would be interesting that we haven't done yet. That might be coming. Um,
The food bowl, which was requested in different item ideas all over.
various fruit bowls. Yeah. Um, do you worry about? So another question: do you worry about as more and more heroes being introduced, balancing will be a nightmare? Personally, I think a more balanced game is more important than just a lot of hero, but it's not balanced. So um, you can sort of look at it as a stone, scissors, paper thing, where when you have the options, as long as there's not a dominant strategy to just be the best, to just win every time, uh, then having some, like, as long as the meta sort of changes a bit, then it's okay. It doesn't have to be flat, it doesn't have to be perfectly balanced. Uh, Perfectly balanced is boring. You want to have things you can explore and find, oh, this is actually really strong, and this is pretty shit. Uh, so you have to have something to figure out as well. Um, yes, yes, yes. Uh-huh. So there's a question about the recent pricing experiment for heroes that has not sat well with people, even though the apology did. Blah blah blah. So like a test like that, okay, I'll have to read the whole thing. I want to understand why this occurred, what the hopes of it were. I can't think of anything. In a time where big companies tend to eat up people's goodwill, like they're a black hole, people just don't have much of that. So it can be felt sometimes. Yeah, I mean that experiment had sort of a bigger cost than I would have liked. Um, Doing these kinds of things, these kinds of experiments, is super normal. You tend to do it on a small percentage of people, and then like not necessarily with hero pricing, but with all sorts of things to see what works better, what makes people like, what do people like better. Sometimes you can do it with a qualitative. You ask people, you show them the thing, and they respond. Or you can do it. That's sort of what we're trying to do with events, is trying out gameplay things, because then we could try it temporarily and then take it out. But for something like this, the reasoning behind it was to uh, minimally affect the player base and get some data to back our decision making instead of just saying, yeah, they should be whatever price or something. Uh, so you have to base it on something. We base a lot of it on a bunch of research, looking at other games, seeing what do games cost, and what is the evaluation of effort to the payback in a way to us, right? So the experiment itself, the test is over. We stopped it. We got some reasonable numbers from it. We got a little smarter. We got smarter from the community reaction as well, I hope. Uh, I can't necessarily promise that we will never do any kind of experiment like this again. We absolutely will, but probably not with pricing, because the negative effects on the people who are locked out are is just so negative, and then I understand that. But it's also a consequence of us having a big community that actually talks to each other, which that's great for you. It's like employee employer. The employees should talk to each other, so to speak. It's healthier for everyone. Um, so like there's a in other games, say you have a Clash Royale or one of those bigger games, Genshin Impact. They do these tests very often, but they might do them slightly differently with like, oh, there's a specific event where it has a different price, and we'll just redo it because we have 100 people. We'll make another one, right? Yeah, I mean, it was a thing. There is going to be pricing changes in the game. But we won't do this kind of test just again. We'll try to do something that is minimally painful because we do want to do right by the community because you're paying for it, so to speak. Uh, so we can only do it as long as you want to be part of it. Will there be any rewards or incentives for playing the events, like ability to earn chests, specific dupes, or even tease release new item early? Yes, there will be rewards for playing. There will be a leaderboard, and based on your placement on the leaderboard, there will be some rewards on that. There we have played around with the idea of unlocking heroes or items or something through there. That's not going to be there in the first version because we're not quite ready to do that. We don't have the content for it right now. But yes, we really want to put stuff inside events and inside, you know, a battle pass has been suggested in the past. That might be something we're pursuing at some point, or some variations of reward roads. Will there be hero chests? So like purchasable. I would like to buy a Celeste chest. Yes, they will be available eventually. We are not there yet, but they will be. Uh, is there plans to add more buffs and debuffs? Yes, there's a new debuff coming in the next update called Insanity. I named it after myself. Um, no, actually, I think Christopher named this one, but he named it after me. Um, so that is coming. So right now we're at the point where there's very little room for more. So we have to figure out exactly what we're going to do. Would it be a global leaderboard or a local leaderboard? So right now it's a global leaderboard of the people who play the event. Uh, we have considered variations of how can we do so there's like segmentation. How can we do so? Like, what if it's your region? But we really have to see how much draw the feature has before we go very far with that. So, like again, I want to say that or stress that this is version one of it. We want to improve it and make it better and more interesting. So do give us feedback once we get to it. Would you consider buffing Sage's poison item branch? Not Icor. Right now, it's just a non-goer. I mean, if it's a non-goer, then sure, I would love to. Um, it requires a bit of thought and a bit of playing around with that. Um, and yeah, so or, immediately someone replies, "It's actually I." Uh, so there's different perspectives on this as well. Sometimes you can feel like something is complete crap or amazing, and other people have different perspectives on it. So we're trying to not be too rickety in our directions, although we have been a little bit lately. Uh, because one of the challenges is also we put out something that's overpowered. Then it's on you guys to find something that counters that. So, like, okay, eventually solutions are found for that. And then maybe it's not that overpowered. Might still be. China is overpowered. We all realize it. Um, but it's there's an effort in what can actually beat her then, and that's fun as well. All right, I think I'm about to round off here because I need to go home and get some food. I want to say thank you for the people who showed up. This has been fun, uh, and we'll probably do it again sometime when it makes sense. And for now, look forward to 0.30. It's coming right around the corner, and it has a new hero, new gameplay features. I hope you're gonna like it. Uh, yeah.
Thank you for being here. One question to the end, nothing in-game
Mm-hmm.
specific, just to the event itself, cause it's stuck in my head and I can't think of a solution. It doesn't really matter, but I still wonder. In this event, who is the guest? Are you the guest of the event cause I planned it, or am I the guest cause it's your server?
I leave that between you and your God. I don't. I don't know, man. I'm just here. Uh, um, yeah, that's for philosophers to figure out. Um, Yeah, thanks for being here. Do reach out in the chat if there's anything that you feel is important to talk about. I'm too often hanging around in the Discord chat at weird times, and once we have the YouTube, we'll link it. Cool.
All right. Then thank
Thank
you
you
for
all.
everyone here who was here the whole time or just partially. And as I said, you can rewatch on YouTube if you want. I will send it to Nikki. Let's see if we cut something or not.
See you guys.
I'm gonna say ciao too. I'm just thinking, should I watch the YouTube link now? Can I get it into the recording or do it separately? Yeah, that's what I thought, streaming the song. Um, give me a second. Uh-huh. Streaming. That. Give me a second on this one. It is seeable for you guys, but I can't put it in a recording this way because I just record my Discord. Okay, I think I can just highly recommend to watch it yourself, and I will do for the YouTube video. Bye, Sarah. We're doing for the YouTube video um, a different recording that I put together, just so it is in there as well. But I won't go through it now because I couldn't take it in here. But I personally have seen it, and I can really recommend it to look at this. It's very cool. All right, then thank you for being here. I'm gonna head out and see you in the next event.